Hi everyone, Alex here from ornamentdesigns.com, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to make this ornament. Now you may recognize this. I made a design very similar to this way back in 2009 for my very first YouTube video. But that video was just a time lapse set to music. I didn't actually go through the steps and teach you what I was doing. And I've had a lot of comments about my older videos about, what is it that you're doing? I can't see it. It's too fast, blah, blah, blah. So I've decided to sort of go through my old videos, take the more popular ones, and redo them with actual tutorial steps and instructions. And so we're going to learn how to make this. So you might be wondering why I call it a starburst ornament when there's not actually a star anywhere on this. This is actually a snowflake I've got in the center here. The reason why I call it a starburst is because I feel like everything sort of bursts from the center embellishment. All the colors and everything sort of burst from that center, and as you can see, it's on both sides. So that's why I call it a starburst. This one has a snowflake in the middle of it. I've made a couple of variations. Here's another variation using the same basic design. I just added a bow and I used a little bit of a different embellishment in the center. This one has a little flower sequin, but as you can see, everything sort of bursts from the center. And then this last one actually does have a star in the middle of it. See that star there? I like this one. This one's really neat. So this truly is a starburst ornament. So anyway, I will be selling these ornaments on my website. If you think these are pretty awesome, but you don't want to take the time to make them yourself, because honestly, these ornaments take quite a while because each one of these sequins is pinned into the foam ball individually. So you're going to want to set aside like 6 to 8 hours. Now you don't have to do it all at once. I never do it all at once. You want to do it in in small steps, an hour here, a couple hours there. I don't recommend sitting there for 8 hours and doing it all at once. You probably will kill your back and your neck. Not so good for the posture. Anyway, I digress. So let's get started, and I will start by telling you what tools and materials you need to use.
All right, the tools that you need to make this ornament are a fine tip permanent marker or a ballpoint pen, something with a nice fine point on it. Then you'll need a measuring tape in centimeters and millimeters. Then you'll need a calculator if you're terrible at math like I am. Some scissors. Some craft glue or just regular white school glue should be fine. This is like an Elmer's type glue. That is totally sufficient. You don't need anything fancier than that. And let's see what else. And optional, a cigarette lighter to melt the ends of the ribbon to prevent from fraying. This is totally optional. If you don't have one of these, don't worry about it. Next, you'll need a polyestrine smooth foam ball. This is an 8 centimeters in diameter. You will need some ribbon, 2 colors in about a 6 millimeter wide ribbon, like this. Let's see here. What else do we need? We need sequin pins, and I've got sequin pins in 2 different sizes. I have these pins. These are 3/4 of an inch long, and I also have some 1/2 inch long pins. If you're using a large foam ball like this one, you may not need the smaller pins. The longer pins are probably going to be okay. But since I have the smaller pins, I'm just going to go ahead and use them anyway. If you're using a smaller ball, you'll definitely want to use these shorter pins. Otherwise, as you're putting them as you're sticking them into the ball, they might run into each other in the middle of the ball if you're using a smaller ball. Okay, and then you'll need sequins, of course, and I have two different colors of sequins. I have these are, oops, I just dropped some. These are 5mm silver hologram sequins. I like the hologram sequins because it just adds like this sparkly iridescence, and they're just really nice. So yeah, and then also I have these pretty turquoise sequins that are also 5mm metallic, and I use those as well. And then you'll need some seed beads. These are just tiny, tiny little beads that will be used. They'll be used. Let's see. Let me show you. They'll be used. You place them. You thread them onto a sequin pin, and then you thread a sequin on, so that the sequin, so that the pin doesn't fall through the hole of the sequin. It's to make the head of the pin larger so that it doesn't come through. And also, I like how it kind of gives it a texture to the ornament. If the head of your pins are big enough and they don't fall through the sequin, like this is not falling through, you don't have to use these. I just really like them. I like the texture that it gives the ornament. So, okay. Then let's see what else we need. We'll need some little bicone beads, and these are just some acrylic bicone beads. Nothing fancy. Of course, you'll need a lot more than this. This is just an example. Okay, you'll need at least 4 pearl head pins. These are about 1.5 inch pearl head pins. You'll need, and then you'll need your large sequins for your center embellishment. And I'm going to use a combination of these large flower sequins, and those are about 2 centimeters in diameter. And then I have these large silver snowflake sequins, and these are about 2.5 centimeters in diameter. And then I have these smaller white iridescent snowflakes. And I'm going to layer those on top of each other to create my center embellishment. So, and the last thing you'll need are some bead caps. This is for the top and bottom of the ornaments. And you can find these in the jewelry making section of your craft store. Let's see, the sequin pins, the sequins, these snowflake sequins, not the big flowers, but the snowflakes, and the seed beads here. I bought all of those at Cartwright's. And Cartwright's is one of my favorite suppliers for sequins and pins. They do have some bicone beads, though I've never tried their bicone beads before. But probably, I imagine the quality of all of their other products are really nice. So I imagine that the quality of their beads are probably really nice too. I just haven't needed to buy them from Cartwright's. So I will put the link to Cartwright's down in the video description. And if you make a lot of these sequin ornaments, I highly recommend you go and check out their selection. It's really, really good and very affordable. So, okay, so let's get started making those ornaments. The first thing you want to do is find the factory markings on your foam ball that indicate the North and the South Pole. And you'll just want to draw a dot at the north and flip it over and draw a dot at the south. If your ball doesn't have any factory markings on it, I have another video that will teach you how to find those markings, and I will go ahead and put a link up here so you can find that if you need to.
Next, you'll want to get out your calculator and just a piece of paper, and we're going to do some math. So if the diameter of my ball is 8 centimeters, which I know it is because it said it on the package, and these balls are pretty consistent with the package markings, so I can be confident that it truly is 8 centimeters in diameter. So you're going to multiply that by pi, which is 3.14, to get the circumference. All right, so if I multiply 8 times 3.14, I get 25.12 centimeters circumference. And circumference is the measurement all the way around the equator of the ball. Okay, so I want to mark 8 points on my equator. So I'm going to divide the circumference by 8. So divide 25.12 divided by 8 equals 3.14. That's just a coincidence. I didn't plan it that way. Anyway, so then 3.14 is the distance between each point that I'm going to make on the equator of my ball. All right, the first mark I'm going to start with, it can be anywhere. Just mark a point anywhere on the equator of your ball, and there should be a factory marking. Like, you can barely see the factory marking line on this video on my ball, but it's there. And then you're going to take your measuring tape and put it along that factory marking and measure out 3.14, or as close to 3.14 as you can get. It's a little bit hard to do the 0.14 millimeters, but there we go. That's basically 3.14. And then I'll move on to the next point. Again, starting there and measuring along the equator, 3.14, and marking a point. And now I've got my first 3 points, and I've just got 5 more to go. All right, now I've got all of my points drawn on the equator, as you can see, like so. Okay, so now I'm going to get out my ribbon. I've got 2 different colors of blue satin ribbon here. One in a light blue and one in kind of a royal blue. And I'm going to set the darker one aside, and I'm going to start with my light blue ribbon. It's hard to say. First. I am just melting the end of the ribbon to prevent it from fraying. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. I like to do it because it just helps the ornament last throughout the years and prevents the fraying. So, all right, now get out your longer sequin pins. These are the 3/4 of an inch pins. And we're going to start pinning our ribbon onto the ball using the points that we marked to help us keep everything sort of straight and evened out properly. You can do this, you can pin the ribbon on the ball without these points marked. I used to do it that way a long time ago. I used to just eyeball it, but now I really like to have these points marked so I can get the ribbon really evenly sectioned out on the ball. It just makes it a lot easier, so I highly recommend that you do it. So, all right, on the South Pole, rather than putting the pins right into the center of the South Pole, I'm actually putting 2 pins next to the South Pole, because at the end we're going to put our our bead cap there, and there needs to be a place to put it. So, but the equator, you can just go ahead and put those pins right on that point. And you might be thinking, well, Alex, I can see the mark through the ribbon here. Yes, that's true, but I'm using those bicone beads at the end, and eventually it's just going to cover it up. You'll see. You won't see it at all.
it'll be hidden eventually. So, all right, so I've melted the end there to prevent fraying again. I've just snipped it off and pinning it back to the top. So that's pretty easy, huh? You don't need to measure out your ribbon beforehand. You can if you want to, but you can just kind of do it as you go. There's no need to do any measuring. And I actually like it this way. Because there's not going to be anything left over at the end. You're not going to have any scraps. So, all right, again, pinning it to the top. I'm not pinning it directly into the North Pole because there needs to be a space there for our final pin. So I'm sort of doing it off center. But the equators, the equator pins, I'm just pinning those perfectly in the equator. Into the equator points, I should say. And I'm sorry if I keep going off camera. I tried to really do a close-up of this, and it makes the space that I have to work with on camera very small. So I apologize if my hands keep going off camera. It's just the nature of using a zoom lens. So, all right, so pin there into the South Pole on either side of the South Pole. Back through the equator. Okay. And then you're just going to cut that off there, right at the top, and melt the end to prevent the fraying. You don't need to set it in the flame for very long, just a second. It's enough to melt the end. And then pin it to the top. All right. So now we have the light blue ribbon here, and I'm just kind of making sure everything is nice and straight. And it looks pretty good to me. So now I'm going to move on to the dark blue ribbon. All right, so now it's time for the dark blue ribbon, and we're pinning it the exact same way as we did the light blue ribbon. We're just pinning it to those remaining equator points that are in between your sections of light blue ribbon. And so basically at the poles, it looks like your light blue ribbon is kind of 90 degrees perpendicular to each other, and it's going to be the same thing with the dark blue ribbon. At the poles, they're going to be 90 degrees and perpendicular to each other to kind of create this bursting effect, as I like to call it, because the north and south poles are eventually going to become our focal points and are no longer going to be at the top and the bottom. They're going to be turned to the side. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead at this point to save on time, but I think you get the idea of how to pin the ribbon on the ball. So let me go ahead and skip ahead. All right, and this is what it looks like when it's all done at the north and the south poles there. And there is what it looks like from the equator. Alrighty, so let's move on to the next step. All right, first thing you want to do is prep some glue. Just put a little dab of glue on something. It doesn't matter what it is. You're probably going to throw it away eventually, so you know, a little piece of plastic or something will be just fine. All right, and let's try not to stick our ball in the glue. That would be good. Okay, and now I'm going to use my 1/2 inch short sequin pins, and I'm going to thread a seed bead onto my sequin pin, like so. See if you can see that. Can you see that? There we go. It's pretty small, so. All right, and then we're going to get one of our silver hologram sequins and just thread that right onto the pin. Okay, like that. That's what it looks like. And then
we're going to take it and dip the end of the pin into some glue, and then where the two ribbon meet, you're going to just stick it right in there. Okay, it's pretty easy. All right, and I'm going to continue on. Seed bead, silver sequin, like that. Stick the end into some glue and pin it there. And I'm starting by pinning along one of these dark blue ribbons. And I'm trying not to overlap the sequin too much onto the ribbon. I'm trying to cover as much of the blank white space of the ball with the sequin as possible. It's just right up against the ribbon, but not quite. It's not totally overlapping. I hope you understand that. It's a little difficult to explain. And we're just going to outline all of the ribbon, actually, not just the dark blue, but we're going to outline all of the ribbon in silver hologram sequins, okay? And it's just pin, thread on a bead, thread on a sequins, stick it into the glue, and pin it to the ball like so. All right, so we're just going to keep pinning on silver sequins. We're going to outline all this ribbon, and it's going to take us a while. So put on some music, maybe an audiobook, but don't forget to take breaks. Sitting in the same position for a long time and doing this, pinning like this tends to sort of, I always get kind of hunched over. My posture gets really bad with it. So I try to set an alarm and take a break about every 30 minutes, stand up, stretch, before I sit back down and continue on. So, all right, so this is going to take me a little while to pin all of these. So I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead so you can see what this looks like when it's all done. All right, so I'm just about finishing up my second line of sequins here. I just want to show you what it looks like when we've got just the two lines done. And if you're going to do any adjusting of the sequins, I recommend that you do it now before the glue dries. And we want to make sure to cover up all of the white foam. So, all right, so there's what that looks like when I'm finished with those two lines. All right, and I'm going to keep going. And this is what it looks like when all of the silver sequins are pinned, outlining all of the ribbon. Okay, now I'm just going to speed this up because you already know what we're doing. You already know how to thread everything onto the pin and how to pin it on the ball. So I'm speeding this up so that I can actually show you how the pattern is going to look. All right, so we're just pinning it, starting where those silver sequins are meeting up, and then I'm going to the left, and I'm kind of outlining that line of silver sequins. All right, and I'm not overlapping the sequins too much. I'm just overlapping them just enough that I'm hiding the white foam underneath. And I'm just adjusting them there. And I'm just going to continue on down, outlining that silver sequin line. Okay, so let me go ahead and skip ahead a little bit. Okay, and this is what it looks like when our first, that first section is finished with the turquoise. All right, and now we're just going to move on to the next section. All right, I've skipped ahead, and this is what it looks like when all of your turquoise sequins are finished. All right, I've skipped ahead again, and we still have some white foam ball peeking through still. So I'm going to use the silver hologram sequin, and I'm going to make just 2 more lines that fill in that empty space right there. So this is going to take a while, so I'm going to speed up the video just to save on time. And you can see I'm just using 2 lines of sequins just to fill in that empty space. And you're going to do this all the way around the ball on all those empty sections until your ball is completely covered in alternating blue and white, blue and silver stripes of sequins and ribbon, I guess. Okay, so now here is what it looks like when when the foam ball is completely covered in ribbon and sequins. And I just love the way this sparkles. It's so pretty. All right, now it's time to do the embellishment at the center. So, sorry about the focus here. It's some reason the focus has gotten messed up. Hopefully it'll readjust itself. Anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm going to be layering these large sequins. First, I'm going to put the small, oh, there it goes, the small snowflake. And I'm going to use a bicone bead there. And then next I'm going to put the large snowflake and get the shiniest side showing. Okay. And then I'm going to put a bicone bead. And then I'm going to put the last big flower sequins. So it creates this sort of 3D effect of one on top of the other. That's why you can do it without the beads in the center, but I like the 3 dimensions that it gives it. It kind of makes it pop out from the center of the ornament. It makes it higher than all of the other sequins that we've already pinned. So you're just going to put some glue on the end of that and pin it there to, that's the North Pole. And that is what it looks like. You see how it kind of pops from the center there. And it looks pretty dramatic because we don't have any of the other beads in place, but at the end it won't look quite so dramatic. So then we'll turn it over, and I'm just gonna set it here just so it stops rolling around. And then again, I'm going to make my layers here. And I like setting it out like this so that I don't get confused with what goes on the pin first and what goes on the pin last. So first, the smallest snowflake, then a bicone bead, then the larger snowflake, then a bicone bead, and last the large flower sequins. Okay, and then I'm gonna get some glue on the end of that, and I'm gonna stick it into little seed bead stuck to my embellishment, made a mess. It's all right, no big deal. Okay, And now I'm just going to glue it to the South Pole. That's the South Pole. And you can see why I didn't put those pins right in the center of the poles, because I needed a place to stick the pin for this embellishment. Before I said it was the pin for the bead cap, but I forgot. I messed up the wording there. So I meant we have to pin the embellishment. All right, now I'm going to need to create my new north and south poles. And at the North Pole, I'm going to put a hanging ribbon. So I've got a piece I'm going to cut a piece of my light blue ribbon, and I'm going to cut it to about, I think I cut it to about 15 to 16 centimeters in length. That's typically how long I like my hanging ribbons. All right, so you'll notice I have this big blue crystal bead in the top here. And that wasn't part of one of the original materials listed, and that's because when I started making this ornament, I was using that bead and sequins as my top cap, and I put it on there and I just didn't like the way it looked. So I decided to change it to a bead cap in the middle of filming. Also right around where the top is, where I pinned the ribbon, you can see how I've pinned the ribbon down. I had to remove a couple of sequins from either side of that point to give myself enough space for the cap. And here's the bead cap that I'm going to use. And I'm just putting it on a pearl head pin and pinning it right there to the top. And I'm going to go kind of look at it to the side. Look at it there. Yep, I like the way that looks. That's a lot better than the other one was. I'm sorry I keep going off camera. I was focused on creating and not focused on what was happening during filming. That happens. Anyway, so you might just have to make some adjustments. You might have to remove a few sequins from your new North Pole to make space for that bead cap if necessary. And for the bottom, I'm gonna remove that pin there and put the bead cap on the pearl head pin and use some glue. I should have glued the top and I didn't, but I will go back later and re-glue the top. And I'll probably reinforce it with a couple more pins as well, since that's where most of the wear and tear is. So my bead cap is a little bit big, so I'm just going to kind of squeeze it, squeeze the metal together and try to make it a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact, so that I don't have to remove any of the sequins at the bottom to make it fit. So that's just what I'm doing here. So I'm just like squeezing it together a little bit to make it just a little bit smaller so that it'll fit in that space. And eventually it will fit just about right into that space. So, okay. Yeah. Okay, that looks good. That looks about the way I want it to. So, all right, so let's move on to the next step. All right, now I'm going to pin my bicone beads on the ribbon, and I'm going to pin about 4 evenly distributed between the North Pole
and my center embellishment. So I'm just gonna have to kind of eyeball it and maybe use the sequins, count the sequins to help me figure out the distance between each bead. And I got to make sure to dip these in glue because these are probably more likely to fall out than anything else. So actually, if you want to use a stronger glue, something with, you know, a little bit better adhesive, you can go ahead and do that. Or you can just use this Elmer's school type glue. That's fine as well. Just be aware that these do come out with handling, and you know, over the years they loosen up. So all right, so here I've evenly spaced 4 of those bicone beads between the center embellishment and the our new North Pole. And I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom half of the ball. All right, and I'm just going to speed this up here in the interest of saving time. But you can basically see here I've just evenly spaced out these 4 bicone beads. All right, so now I'm going to start putting the beads on this line of blue ribbon here. And again, I'm going to just evenly space out 4 on this side of the ball. And then I'll turn it over and I'll evenly space 4 on the other. But we don't have a bead cap on this line of ribbon. So I'm actually, and I'll actually add 2 more beads to the center to even them out. So instead of having 8, we'll have 10. So, but this is going to take me a little while, so I'm going to just speed it up here again. But I think you can get the idea of what I'm doing. All right, and right here is where I was talking about those center. I'm going to take out that pin that was holding the ribbon down. We don't need it anymore. And on either side of where that hole is, I'll just pin 2 more beads. So instead of having 8, I have 10. And it looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up all of the bicone beads all along all of these ribbons. And let me skip ahead and show you what that looks like. All right, so all of our bicone beads are pinned onto the ribbon, and we are done with our ornament. Yay! This is our final product. We're finished. And it only took us 6 hours to make. Though with modern technology, I was able to condense it into about 40 minutes. So, all right, and here's a final picture of our completed ornament. I think it looks pretty darn good. And here it is next to my purple variation. And here's my last variation in red and green and gold. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I hope you enjoy making your ornaments. And I will see you again next time. Bye!